Moi boas tardes, benvidos ao CGAC. Moitas grazas por estar aquí con nós. Hoxe temos unha conferencia performativa de Kubra Khademi, que é unha artista que está presente na exposición Camiños 3. Esta é unha parte esencial tamén da exposición, é dicir, está vencellada directamente con o pequeno, o breve vídeo tomado por unha cámara de móvil en Kabul fai 7 anos aproximadamente. Aquela performance onde ela camiña por Kabul con unha armadura onde se ve o peito, as nalgas, se ve o corpo da muller, foi a causa precisamente de que tivera que sair do país e desde aquel momento está refuxiada en Francia, onde tivo a nacionalidade e onde actualmente reside. O que quería plantexar tamén é que as performances forman parte da exposición. Non é unha actividade complementaria, sino que é unha actividade que está no centro da exposición. O seu traballo, ela comentará, está directamente conectado coa idea do corpo. Polo tanto, o camiñar e o corpo están tamén veceñados entre sí. E o que plantexábamos tamén con esta conferencia performativa era a posibilidade para o público de poder coñecer directamente de cerca a un artista moi singular, que é un artista, por outro lado, que tamén está construindo a súa obra como unha reclamación, como un posicionamento humano e político ao mesmo tempo. E agora vou deixarvos con ela e coa súa conferencia performativa. Moitísimas grazas.
به آفتاب سلامی دوباره خواهم داد. به آفتاب سلامی دوباره خواهم داد. به جویبار که در من جاری بود. به ابرها که فکرهای طویلم بودند. به رشد دردناک سپیدارهای باغ که با من از فصلهای خشک گذر می کردند. به دسته های کلاغان که عطر مزرعه های شبانه را برای من به هدیه می آوردند. به مادرم که در آینه زندگی می کرد و شکل پیری من بود. به زمین که شهوت تکرار من درون ملتهبش را از تخمه های سبز می انباشت. سلامی دوباره خواهم داد. می آیم، می آیم، می آیم. به گیسویم ادامه بوهای زیر خاک، با چشمهایم تجربه غلیظ تاریکی، با بوته ها که چیدم از بیشه های آن سوی دیوار. می آیم، می آیم، می آیم. و آستانه پر از عشق می شود. و من در آستانه با آنها که دوست می دارند و دختری که هنوز آنجا در آستانه پر عشق ایستاده. سلامی دوباره خواهم داد. who I am. This question is all about my art, who I am, and how I am defining myself, the way I want. In my culture or in my family where I'm born, to identify someone there is a particular way, administrative way, culturally, through religion. There are a lot of factors in a society where we define people. But when it comes to women, there is no definition by her that we can define her by truly herself. But it's more to be daughter of someone, wife of someone, mother of someone. But maybe this is the reason that unconsciously or very naturally, I don't know how, I cannot find the reason, but that question has all like inspiration in my work. So I decided, not decided, but I see it through my mother and grandmother, like the generation before me. I am looking my identity through them. So, like, I know my grandmother, her name is Amanat, but when I asked her, what's your name, she told me when I met her, when I was very young, when I was a child. But we call her grandmother. Like, my mother was calling her mother, and people were calling her mother of Jawad. Jawad was her only son who was killed under Russian bomb when it was Soviet war in Afghanistan. So even she was called mother of Jawad, he was the last child, and my mother was the oldest child. But people were not calling her mother of Fatima or mother of Tajgul, but people were identifying her mother of her only son. I draw her the way I saw her, the way I knew her. A woman with extreme capacity and talent of storytelling. Of course, analphabet. She doesn't know how to read and write, but the great talent of storytelling. I was maybe 5 or 6, I think I was around 6 when I met her. She said she was full of story. Like when she saw like me and my sisters, she was just trying to. There was necessity, this energy, or this necessity of just telling us, or this urgent of telling us. I don't know, this need of telling us, because I have 5 sisters, so there are a lot of girls. So she used to tell us that, but it was only her story. She said when she was child, very little, and she had 4 elder brothers. Her mother died, with simple disease. She died, and she remained with 4 older brother and father. And she said that how she was acting like a mother, even without knowing her very well, because she was still a baby when she died. And she said how responsible she was. She was explaining us the culture, through her life story, but a way of teaching us also how a little girl is. One of the image that was very striking for me, but also at the same time, she said that, for example, when I was like complaining, like, well, I feel pain or something simple, she used to say that women don't feel pain. I said, how? She said that women are strong. I said, how? And she said, she was giving her own example. I think she was married around 10 to 11 something. And she said when she was, of course she was she was working also since childhood, like many other women of her generation. She used to go to the field working, and then with the men, her elder brothers and father. And she said when she got married after that, still the work continues, even bigger, it becomes more serious, and because there is a responsibility. She said, I used to go to the work one person and come back two people, two person. And I said, what does that mean? She said it was simple. I used to go to the work. Woman has to be wise and aware and conscious about everything. I had your age, but when I used to go to the field those days, and I used to come back second with another person. I said, how? And she said, I was pregnant, and when it was time, I knew it. I have to know it. So I take things, I go equipped to the field. When the moment comes, I take out my trousers, open my leg, and my child falls down. I wait few minutes. Of course, I have this this instrument that we work. So I have something. So I just cut, and the second thing falls down. I wrap the baby aside, and I continue working. And of course, I go with something. Women has to be aware and conscious about everything. Anything can happen anytime. And she said that, yeah, I was delivering baby this way. Woman, this is woman. This is how to be a woman. And I do remember I was forgetting what she was like. The moment, like she was saying, do not complain, women are strong. Woman has to be conscious. This is how the woman is. And but the life, she said also that the God didn't like her. The way took her mother when she was baby, the God was taking her first children because they were dying after a few days, and she was telling that it was her fault. The God didn't like her, and particularly the God didn't like her because those babies first, they were boys, precious, and the God was taking from her. And then after some times, I think 5 died. After that, my mother came, and she survived. And she said, yeah, the God even doesn't like girls. After that, 5 girls came, all survived, all remained. And my mother took also the same way of, and then my mother got married one after another, and her last child remained, and he was still a child when he was killed under the Russian bombard. Then she had no one in her life. This time, her husband died. He died normally, but when her son was killed, she lost everybody. She was an alone old woman. And she said, that day I didn't have a scarf. That is something to be a woman who doesn't have respect, a woman who loses everything. Yes, she didn't have a scarf. and she goes to the mountain. She said, I went to mountain from the village to hoping that an animal eats her and her life ends. But it didn't happen. After some times, one of my aunt who was still in the same village, who after 10 days or something found her in the mountain and bring her to her house. And after that, sometimes she died in her house. Her life ends. I hear the rest of the stories from my aunt when I went to visit her in our village. And I went to her grave, and I remember the image I had of her with her stories. And from the moment I didn't know, my aunt told me on her grave. Tajgul, her daughter, my mother. In her papers, she's called Fatima, but her real name, birth name, is Tajgul. She's a woman of another generation who, we can say my mother is more religious than my grandmother. She was also a daughter for like child or working. So she used to work, and her mother was giving birth to her other sisters. So there was always a baby. So she said, I was holding the baby on my back and her on her back, and she was also working on the field. And she was proud of herself. She said, I was always feeling, it's okay if I don't have brother. I can work. I'm still working. I'm useful. I'm take care of my parents. And then, but she was growing. She was growing, and then there was time of getting married. My mother got married when she was 12 years old. She said when she got married, it was her whole fear was that fear and sadness was she's leaving behind her mother who is sick, her father too, and they got old, and little sisters behind. When after her marriage, she got pregnant for my elder brother. And then this time, my father decides they move to Kabul. My mother went on a horse, and Kabul seemed for her, she always talked about Kabul. She said Kabul was far, big city, and felt so scary, stressful to go there. You know no one you're going to there to have another life, a life that you do not know. Then there was always question of that and fear, and my mother was feeling, and when she arrived to Kabul, she got pregnant, and then she had another boy. Everybody was happy. The third child, a girl. It was still in Kabul. And everybody becomes sad. My mother said, the first girl was sick, baby, newborn baby, and sick, and I did not know anybody in Kabul. So I asked your father that she is sick, give me some money. I want to take her to the hospital somewhere. I will ask the neighbors. And it was the morning, and he was going to work, and look it back and say that even if she dies, I don't give money to put her in the grave, to bury her body. And he left. My mother said, And it really happened at the same day. This baby died. In the evening he came. I said that, yeah, this happened. And he becomes, my mother said he became very sad. He just said something, but he was not waiting for it. Then my 2 other brothers were born. Still my father was happy. And then girls start. And then 6 girls. And myself, among one of those 6 girls. I was a bad child. I was told that. Yeah, I heard it constantly, and I was beaten up because of being bad and also being dumb, because of being beaten up constantly and always, but keep repeating the bad things and giving the reason and to my mother to beat me again and again and again and over and over. And yeah, part of my whole childhood, being beaten up. But beating is also the question, part of the culture of educating. It's part of education to beat and to put you in the right way, so you act properly. You're a better person, you're a better girl, you're a good girl. If you're not, you're bad. Yeah, I had my own proper way of being bad deeply. Even when there was, sometimes I learned at the age of 8 how to do prayers. I used to pray not properly. I used to take revenge. I used to say that, who knows, while I am praying, I am yelling at God. I am saying things that I want to. Nobody is hearing. I do what I want. So I was, for the years, for a very long time, my prayers was full of acting. Even I was dancing when I was praying. I had my own way of praying. Especially I was looking when there is no one at home. I do my prayers. I used to do my prayers, but in my own way. Also, I used to draw, and I used to always draw, and I used to draw my imagination. Draw the way I used to see myself. I always draw girls. I always draw body of girls. I was drawing myself, and I was drawing so much that I didn't have paper a lot for that amount of need of drawing. And when I became teenager, I think a time that I had this moment, that this question of it was time of getting period and the moment of getting married. For me, this time came as well, and that question was such a question of life and death. So you feel this question, this moment, and you are facing it, and you have no way in your education that you can stand and say no, you do whatever you want. No, we don't hear this as a girl. So this moment was confrontation of what I want to do, that I am very, very clear, and what I do not want to do. So it was the contrast of what family and society are looking for me. They are preparing me. They want me to do. So that moment, I do remember, I looked in the eyes of my mother and asked her, who gave you the right to give birth to me? And she looked in my eyes and said that, I was a happy woman. I was in all health. I have to be thankful to God. I have to give birth one to another. You are a result of happiness. And I do remember I didn't say anything. This is that moment. I'm holding the placenta. One side is connected into my body, one side is in hers. I was asking her this question of life and death, and she replied me something totally striking, and I was in shock. I was waiting for something else, but she replied me in a very calm way. But that moment, that question was radical, but also at the same time very disrespectful to the position of mother. A daughter is asking. Instead of being thankful, instead of being happy that I will be marrying, but I ask her that why? Why I have to face this day? And of course, marriage and the question of virginity. It's not something new for this time, but it raised up is the time. Marriage is in fact, marriage means a lot of things in my culture. Marriage means respect for women. Marriage means you will have guarantee for your life. Marriage means you will have a house on your head. Marriage means you will have name of someone on you, in your administratively, culturally, through religion. You will have everything. And the question of virginity is something that we raise girls from very beginning. I was hearing it from since I know myself. Girls don't climb on the tree. Why? You may lose your virginity. Virginity, what is that? Blood, which is a sign of your pureness, which is a sign of your, a sign. Marriage is an exam for that. And that night, imagining that night was already a nightmare for me. And knowing my mother and my grandmother, knowing myself, having 5 sisters and 4 elder brothers, and seeing myself that how woman is considered as property and richness of course, for women is exactly the same. The chef of the family, who is the father, is owning all this property, who are number of people in his house, and also number of the animal. Domestic animal is a richness in countryside. From chicken to cow and horse and donkey and sheep and all of this. They're all marching in this drawing for me. They're all together. This one is that position that I have, the position of giving birth, the position of working women who are giving birth in the field. But she is giving birth endlessly to girls, the girls who have no value, but this piece is called Birth of the Half Nation. They are not seen. And this one, this has a story, this drawing. This is my mother, who has, comment dire ça en français, in English? Wings, yeah, thank you. Who are having wings, and there are 4 cows. This story, my mother told me always, and she's always forgetting that she tells me, because it is this important that she needs to tell it time and again, and make sure she tells again and again and again and again. I have heard it over 1,000 times. When my mother gets married, she was working in the field. My grandmother, she was sick, she was taking care of other babies, She goes to the little mountain and call her, Tajgul, loud. And she hears, come sooner this evening, finish work sooner and come back home. So my mother does. There is something. It's something that more important than the hours of work. So she comes back. She comes back, and then she sees that there are some guests. 2 men are sitting. My grandmother tells her, go, door is open, go pass from there to there so they can see you. Don't be very quick. Pass. My mother said, I did it. I passed, but I saw from here that there were 2 men. I saw. And I understood that there was not their boy, the groom. She felt they come to ask her hand, and they were the first people. And then next day, she goes to work, and her absent, everything was dealt. And the few days after, they come to, so these days she doesn't go to work. She takes shower, and she's sitting. Things came, her marriage happens, and then she said, I was worried, I'm leaving this house. Who will work? She said, her father always told her that, you're not a girl, you're a boy for me. And she said, whenever she used to tell me, she was very proud. And she said that I was the boy of the family and I was going. So I asked that, what is my prize? There is a prize in the marriage. The boy side, they pay and they take the girl. So she said that, what's the prize? And her father said, 4 cows. And she said, 4 cows? This is very good. She was happy. She leaves, she goes. And then, these 4 cows never existed. It was a lie. She said, the day after of the marriage, her father came and asked the brother of my father. He laughed and said that, do you think your daughter can cost 4 cows? You old man, idiot, turn back. And that's it. And my mother always said that I will take my right in the next life, which is a lie by religion. And myself, grown up, finding myself, I am in chain, which is, we do not say it because there is no mean for that, but we feel it and we recognize it. I used to recognize it by going to depression, having problem, and a struggle, finding a way by yourself, make your own mean to be free. Money is something very, very important. When I refused to get married, I was not an idiot. You can never say refuse marriage, have your own project for your life, and counting on the man of your family to pay for you. Never. That was very, for me, obvious. I was a child who was working on the carpet. Like I was raised in the city, not my mother and grandmother in the village. So we used to do carpet, but that is, millions of children are working in Afghanistan. So that is to take part in the finance in the family, but you don't have for your own. I found my way. I used to do embroidery at night. Some more. No one knows where that money goes. That money seems very little, and nobody's counting on it. So I was putting that aside. I was hiding it for that day. When I raise my head, when I say no, and I say what I want to do, and I will go with my own money, not you. So that helped me. That helped me a lot. of course, those days, those years, questioning of and finding my own way of thinking about my own female sexual nature, which is another level of being unknown and unrecognized, and of course, well, even like more than taboo, but thinking about it was another hidden struggle inside me. And the moment that I talked, the money that I was putting aside for the day, I finally got support of my mother. She told my brother, my father died, so he became the chef of the family. Told him that in every family there is an animal. Maybe that animal is her. Let her go. I think my mom intended to cut the head of patriarchy those days by being by my side and giving her words, which was not easy for her. That cost her after that a lot, but she did it. I call it the great accord, which is in this moment of being by my side, in this big decision of my life, refuse of marriage and freedom, university, studying art, pursuing my dreams, looking for what I want to do, what I want to be, who I am. Yeah, I was young. I was thinking that if I go away, if I choose live differently, and that is absolute freedom. You're no more in your family's house. I don't know that life. I don't know a lot of people who did that. But yeah, it happened. And university, art university, exploring all what I was thinking, confrontation of my own personal history, not only, but seeing myself. Come on, I was out of my parents' house. I was by my own in Kabul, all alone. I was thinking, like, I am having the whole, like, everything is in my hand. As I said, I was young, and confrontation of the history, your identity in the country, I mean, war, and so in this work, this performance is my first performance in public space. This is happening in Lahore, in the middle of motorway, 2013, where I choose to live the detail in life, the detail, simple things that defines life, simple things that have value. Reading, drinking, lying down, things banal that we can do by any means, in any way. So I choose to do it in the middle of extreme opposite ambience. And that I chose in the middle of motorway, right in the middle, where the speed is in the highest level. Yeah, I had very few centimeter. Some of the cars and the vehicles were passing. They were just facing, like few seconds before, something that they should avoid hitting, and they managed it, all of them. I was there for 45 minutes. I wanted to be there for 1 hour, but police traffic come and stopped me, and he said, if I don't stop immediately, he will put me in prison, because the city right in front of this spot, the whole city is blocked. So this moment here, this spot caused a huge traffic, because the vehicles who were just passing after me, they were confused that what they saw. It was like they were interrupted by my presence there. When I explained to the police that, look, I'm just an artist, it's a performance art. And he told me, no, you just have to wrap and go. And he called a taxi. He put me inside with my all things within like 5 seconds, and I was gone. But I had enough shot from this performance, and I was happy. So I left. Then in this performance, I looked back the life, how it feels like to live in extreme danger, war, displacement, immigration, and this unknown feeling of that, how you make your life, how you live, how you continue, and what means. So this performance is also in the same year, 2013, in a gallery where I am. Public arrive. In the middle, there was this suitcase, which is my own. This is the suitcase where I left my mother's house with. An object which is dear to me, but also it's very, it's a personal object. God knows what I put inside when I was going. I put a lot of things in this cheap, big suitcase, and I was hoping I would never come back. I would take everything I want, and I took. And then I went to, so I took this suitcase inside of this performance, and I placed it in the middle of the gallery. Then I was among the public. After sometimes, few minutes, I let public feel. I walked to it, I opened it, I placed myself inside, and I closed it from inside. And I didn't know how and when it will finish. I didn't need to know. I wanted to enter inside of it. Like another voyage, another trip, another journey. Unknown. The way I came out and I didn't know. Well, I had my plan, but life of a woman alone is different. Then I stayed inside. Then I was hearing public, it was happening, and then after some time passed, and I hear somebody's opening it. somebody opened it. So when I said that this is the moment of going out. When I went out, there was no one left. And I walked out and I saw the person who opened it. She came to me and she told me that all what happened, first he said that, 3 hours. 3 hours you were inside of it. Then she told me what happened during this whole 3 hours. She said, during these 3 hours, during this simple performance, this image, we have gone through a lot of extreme feelings. Guilt, we didn't know what to do. Can we open you? You were thinking what's happening, curiosity, questions, sadness, happiness, excitement. Through a lot, we have gone through a lot of questions. But wow, how, why? You lock yourself, even without knowing when you will finish. So I wanted to reply her for the respect of her question and things, and then she replied to me, "You're from Afghanistan. War, immigration, being a woman." And then again I wanted to explain her, and then I couldn't. She just left after that. And I was happy that she stayed in this long, and she said for 10 minutes or something, she was all alone in the gallery space, and then she said there was no one, and then she said that maybe she can finish it. She can allow me to come back. She can do something. And I said, yeah, she did it. And I finished it after that as well, the way she wanted. Yeah, it just happened that I had to stop. Displacement. This object is something, it has something not only for me in my personal experience, but for my entire family history. We also displaced few times, my family. During Russian war, Soviet-Russian war to Iran, and then we came back, and then Taliban happened. They went to Pakistan, this tiny city near the border, Quetta, where there is like huge immigrants are there. And then we came back, constantly in the move. This performance is something that I did it in 2014 in Kabul, where I am sitting. It's happening in the gallery. I'm sitting in this black costume. All public arrives, and I'm in the silent, like public. I let the curiosity goes up, feels this space, everybody find themselves, feel it, they see themselves, you, me, everybody. And then I start slapping myself from one to another, hard. And I was thinking that maybe 1 hour or something. Then I was waiting for that. As I did the first slap, I saw the reaction, the bodies that moved. I start, the body moved, and then after second, third, fourth, fifth, one to another, one slap to another. I keep seeing the reaction into the body gesture, within the, like saying something, moving the head and things, and then I start feeling and getting the energy from the public. Then then after it keeps going, then I saw that from the public, like closer to the door, somebody left. And after that, it start like going, one person like there, and the other one, another one, another one. And then people keep moving until I had no one in the space. When there was no one, I keep slapping few, and then I stop. I felt it. This is the moment of stopping, and the moment of stopping. Then I stopped, and then I said, yeah, I stopped. Then I walked out. And I saw everybody. Everybody's left the saal, but everybody waited outside. They waited outside to see what will happen next. Then I went out, but then I saw the public. Everybody needed to tell me something. What they feel, what they saw. Again, the need of expressing, but it was totally. Everybody was like expressing themselves in different ways. I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to stop you. Basically, everybody wanted to stop me. But how to stop me? In different ways. One of them told me, I wanted to give you a big slap, so you stop, and then, you stop it. How you do it? Sometimes in a very cliche way. Do you mean this is the violence against women? And I said that, okay, everybody is going to the direction. This was to bring this attention, or this, how we can say, definition of violence. When violence is the culture, when there's a culture of violence, it's practiced as a culture. This is not something possible to eliminate that violence, because you have to face the culture, norm, nature even, and that's something through this performance was to face this moment of what we call violence, and how we position ourselves. So by that, this sharing of this, raising this question and making this space of what we call violence. Of course, it was like myself giving myself the clack and the slap, but which is, of course, different to when a woman is receiving, from violence from her husband. We come across of a lot of these moments that we hear her neighbor is beating her woman, and we have empathy with men. Oh my God, what the hell again this crazy woman is doing, making him angry. Poor him, he is working every day, coming back home, and he has to beat her again. Oh my God. Yes, we have a lot that. And thinking about to stand against it, it's standing against culture, patriarchal culture. You can't. You cannot go knock on your neighbor and tell him that, hey, fuck off. You cannot beat your husband. It's never your business. That should never remain your business. So another performance of mine, it was happening in 2015, where I am, where I am bringing this attention to another form of violence, culture of violence, which is sexual harassment in public space, where is practiced by all age of men, like from, you see in the image really from the boys to old men, and but talking about it or bringing that topic into or reacting to it is not part of the culture. You should keep your silent. You're harassed sexually, where somewhere you should remain silent. And to bring that culture into how it looks like and where I am, I make it in a performance, live performance, which is a walk. I chose very emblematic and very important space for that, which was downtown Kabul, where there is like a huge square where there is a lot of public, the real public, let's say, and very unsafe place for women. But doesn't mean other parts are less, but yeah, some places are less or more, but I chose it because I said that I have the maximum of the real public who will be performing in their own position, in their own value, and we will see that me, where I am, and then how the way I want to be, because I'm not the woman who will go back to home, but I will be the way I want to be. I will be present. And this performance was finished successfully. I did it the way I want it, finishing and where it has to finish. And but right after that, the reaction in social media, reaction in news, in media in the country, very quickly, it raised a lot of anger, and it made such consequences that I had to leave my country, but I was lucky to be able to leave my country. Because in such kind of situation, all of us are not rescued, because this was a performance like my all other performances or other works. And I just make it very brief. I was rescued, and less than a month later, I was in France. In this performance, I am doing, this is a walk. This performance is called From Sunrise to Sunset in Paris. In this performance, these few pieces on my head is all I could bring from Afghanistan. I asked my passport from my roommate, and then I was hiding somewhere. I changed my place 3 times. And then when the moment came, I asked my passport, and then she brought, but I don't know how come she took something. A few pieces of clothes that, and then she brought for me. Then I come to France with that. So I was still in hiding, I was not, but I come and I was working, and then I started working like as an artist, and people knew that I'm here, but not in Afghanistan. So for the second time in my life, I was again in the head, once again, then while people were looking for me, they found out that I'm in France and I'm alive. And again, there was in social media, there was again, news in media, there was again the title, me as a title of the spy, American spy, because they were thinking I'm a spy. America sent me, which is an absolute idiot idea. to think America is there to save women. So I was again the headline of this all news that spy is in France. So they were in the shock. And then this was heavy to be remaining alive thanks to some other people who believe in art and have respect. But this time being again in this much anger is again raised. So I made this performance in which I'm walking. Walking is moving forward, and it is an act which is alive. I was walking from sunrise to sunset, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. A situationist walk. And with all I had as life in material on my head, and I was walking barefoot. Making sure I am alive and I'm walking and feeling the surface of this city while I'm walking for this the whole day. And then I keep working when I come here as an artist. I was facing this question of, okay, what? That much psychological charge of the way I had to leave my country was quite heavy, very heavy, that it was coming to me in all different ways. And eventually, like this one is one of other performances I have done when I come. Recently, when I came here, Museum of Exile in La Janjuera invited me to do a performance on the footsteps of Walter Benjamin in the border of France, Spain, or Catalonia, while he was running from Nazis, this Jewish philosopher, thinker, those days back. So this time, I was so much in my own pain and shock, but when museum asked me to do a performance in his Memorial Day, I put up in front of the history this time, away from Afghanistan, away from like immigration, war, displacement back there, but this time here with the history, somebody that, and I feel that it was to position myself in another level, another way with this question of exile, life, death, second life. I said that, look, I know what I want to do. So the whole way is marked where Walter Benjamin, it's still France, who is going up and then going down. Those days, France, Spain, everywhere, they were collaborating with Nazis. So when he was going there, when he went down, Adorno, his friend, all West Coast, I don't know where in Spain, he was waiting for him because he convinced him, come my friend, we will make till US, come this all way, come all the way down, and then cross, and then come to the west here, and then we'll get the ship and we will go to US. He convinced him, and he was a philosopher, a thinker. It's hard to say what was his intention. Was he really going to exile? Was he really accepting what his friend said? But he did it. He come to this all way, and then he started walking, and it was at night. Next day, he arrives to the other side, and then Spanish police took him and put him in the hotel that night in Portbou, and then told him next day he had to be submitted to Nazis police. That night at hotel he commits suicide. He decides again for himself. So this question was also again in a way you find yourself in the footstep of someone, but the history is he's repeating in a different ways, and I say that for sure. For him, for me, whoever goes to exile, whoever is facing this this moment of like choosing life or death, death to another death, I don't know, life to another life. So that was something that I said, the reason what makes this is the most painful, but also a source that push you, you move forward, you make this choice of saving your life. Or, I don't know, running away. That this question is hard, but what is clear is that reason. The pain is that reason. And so I said that I'm going to walk. I turned my face and I was walking backward the whole way. It was a walk from 9:30 to 2:30 p.m. walk. The whole path is not this way. Sometimes there is only a stone, which is not easy, which was like, I was walking the whole way. My knees were shaking because it was very dizzy. It was not a simple walk. But that means this life, and I had no image of the ahead that I was moving forward. And that is the life that you seek to go from what you see, what is making you to move to go. Another one, this performance, I did it. This one is happening in Gijón. No, excuse me, in Catalonia, in another city, Girona. And I did it in different cities in Europe, France, Belgium. This is again a performance that finding yourself somewhere else, you enter to a totally another administrative way of like finding in process of exile and then questioning new people, new culture. A lot of things you know it as a human, but a lot of things you don't know. You find yourself going enter to a new place. You always trying to find yourself, define yourself, find yourself. This is something that I make it into this performance. I expose myself in the middle of the road where the sun is coming, projecting on me. My shadow is like almost my height, but the sun keeps changing my shadow, and I keep drawing with a stone, drawing, permanent looking for yourself, permanent questioning yourself in new places. And till the sun finishes, my shadow become more than 10 meters, I guess. Another performance, living in freedom. Like my life in Europe is very, very free. I am free, really free. But since patriarchy, religion is so much deep inside, you really question yourself. Being free, are you really? Can you practice? You looked it for your whole life, but are you getting it? I think freedom is a way rather than really being in it. The same way, I was swinging in theater while I was collaborating with my other German artist friend in this piece. I was being attached from above, and then again finding myself questioning about it and using the use of my body also in my work. This work is happening in Palais Tokyo. I did it first in Barcelona, and then I did it in a few other places. I'm sitting like I come, a chair is there, light is above, I come, I sit, but in my costume I exaggerate the form of my body, like exaggerating the femininity in order to show more maternity. My stomach was big, my breast was big. I put salt inside of my costume, and I come this heavy. I sit. After a minute, water started running on my body. I was like a sculpture sitting, and the shape was moving. Less than an hour or something, everything gone. I stand up, I walked the way I came, but in a totally different shape. Picture of my mother, sacrifice, and giving, and yeah. Another work that I did in walking in public spaces in Europe, in European cities. I have traffic light on my head, and I am switching my light to red to green, green to red, simultaneously with the traffic light of the city. Questioning of gender, finding myself, questioning the how we obey things, but do we question really? Do we find really ourselves in it? I found it like because my country has a lot of laws and things, of course, but for a lot of things there is no rule in law. We don't recognize. But so shifting from that life to Europe, for a lot of like things are codified and we have law. I think I have some other relation to it. I see things differently, I guess. And through this performance, it was happening at night for a few hours. I keep walking and switching my light. Since it's a very funny way, people talk to me a lot. And dialoguing about gender, public space, obeying, disobeying, maybe. Going back to using different spaces, making work in Europe where art has institution, the way of making art is defined. I come from somewhere there is like totally no rule in law, but I am adjusting myself, maybe using liberty of having opportunity, or maybe having the idea of like making different work. This piece is happening in theater, where I am acting, going back to the body of when I was child, and I was in my culture. There is like the way of raising girl as a grown-up woman, and and now going back to those days with the body of like I have the body of a grown-up woman, adult, going like again using different spaces and focusing on digging back into mythology, stories back in Afghanistan, or especially oral mythology in Afghanistan literature is quite strong, bringing back to it, experimenting through dance and movements. Of course, it's always their question of my country, where I see it, where I am interrogating into it through, because now I am far from my country. The way I question the system there, the way I question the politics there is different now for me. Why different? It's not a huge difference, but yeah, it's a huge difference. I see it from this distance, and I see it through the eye of being among European countries. I was in New York. I was here. I'm here. So it's so much involved the question of geopolitics in relation to Afghanistan, a country which is very famous, extremely famous with war, Taliban, terrorism, and its stereotype. It's been more than 7 years by now I live in Europe. I have come constantly this question of that. Wow, you're the first Afghan woman I have ever met. You're the first Afghan person I have ever met. But yeah, Afghanistan, Taliban, the first thing that comes. True, but not everything. So I make this work, which is a photo performance series with my ex-companion those days, who was an American person, artist. We collaborated through, but America, by the way, is also very famous. Capitalism, imperialism. I mean, with this all picture in Afghanistan. So we put together these two strong stereotypic presence into the relation into this country. Of course, I couldn't be a woman, but I was a woman in that real relation that we had. So we turn it to stereotype of our country, and we come up with this film and photo performance through in which, particularly this piece happened when I was making late 2019, early 2020 this work. US was still in Afghanistan. NATO was still in Afghanistan. Taliban didn't have power. So we made this work, and then in this piece, it was exactly when Trump said, we will go out. And then immediately, his presence went out from the photographs that we were making, and we ended here. I remind myself, like the stereotype, this country alone, who is fucking himself in his ass all around, endlessly, which is happening exactly right after, in reality, next year when they left. Yeah. Questioning now not only my own identity, but like the identity so far that I talked, but seeing it from perspective where geopolitics has strong impact and control on my country is another level of being and feeling responsible as an artist who has a voice and who is trying to have a voice and trying to exist and raise question through.